the Sega Saturn. I love this system. I never expected to be wowed by its charm or power, especially in the 2D games, but man, the Saturn really has won me over. I've owned my Saturn since February 2019, and back then I knew nothing about the system. Today, I have over 30 games to pick from, and I've even imported some Japanese games which I really do feel is a must to get the most out of the system. So far, I've made 2 episodes dedicated to reviewing the Sega Saturn games I buy to figure out if the games are worth the money. Well, I think now it's time to review some more and see if these particular games are worth buying for your own Sega Saturn collection. First up, it's Panzer Dragoon. This was a launch game for the Sega Saturn, and it was intended to prove how good the Saturn was at 3D gaming. The game starts with an epic intro. We see a rider going after a strange creature, only to be ambushed and seemingly left for dead. He is then saved by a man riding a dragon, only to be killed in the process. Before he dies, he entrusts the man he just met with all of the knowledge he had and telling us that his dragon knows what to do next. Now, it's up to us to avenge this man and of course save the world. Story aside, this was a great cutscene and I was pumped for action. So, Panzer Dragoon is a third-person rail shooter, and simply put, your task is to survive each level, taking down waves of enemies and then fighting a boss at the end. Sounds simple. To achieve this objective, you can fly around the screen shooting your basic laser attack using the on-screen crosshair. If you hold down the button, you can lock on to long-distance enemies and shoot a more powerful beam at them. This particular attack is handy. Not only because it's more powerful, you can lock on to many foes at once, or in the case of a boss battle, attack multiple spots of the boss to take them down quicker. Dodging attacks is also key, and sadly for me, I can't do it so well because I'm so preoccupied with shooting down one enemy and I end up getting hit by someone else. Luckily, this radar helps you locate unseen enemies and which ones are actually attacking you. The flashing points are the ones who are actually trying to kill you. I also forgot to mention you can rotate the camera to shoot these enemies from the sides or behind you. This is neat, but you cannot dodge in these angles and sometimes the dragon's wings get in the way. Otherwise, this is a fantastic game with great graphics, good sound design and a soundtrack which makes the game even more fun and feel like a true adventure with a goal in mind. I felt really engrossed in the game, and despite not finishing it yet, I really wanted to know what happens to our new rider and his dragon. You can find this game fairly cheap these days, and I encourage you to play it if it's possible. In 1996, Panzer Dragoon 2 was released. The game is a prequel story to the first game. It shows a man who is told to kill these creatures as they are not welcome, plus cannot be easily sold for money. However, he cannot kill this one particular type who has wings, and he keeps the creature in secret. Sometime later, he and the creature's home village is destroyed by a battleship, and now you must destroy the ship and I guess rebuild your lives? I don't know. This game is similar to the first, so I will not go over everything again. That being said, this game has big changes and upgrades to the formula. First, your battles will take place both on the air and the ground. The ground portions show off great scale and the air portions are more frenetic than before. The game has tighter and better controls than before, and the different camera angles feel more fluid. The dragon actually moves up and down this time in these angles, thus giving you some form of dodging, which I'm glad they added. I now feel more confident changing the camera and taking less damage in the process. Another new change is the special attack meter. A separate bar will fill up as you destroy enemies, and once it is green, you can fire off many beams of light to give those in your way some real punishment. The more you let the bar fill up, the longer this move will last. Also, this makes you invincible for a short time as well. Very handy for the bosses or if you are in a tough situation. I love the locations in this game. It feels more like I'm going on a journey, and all this makes the world feel more alive and real. You can also take alternative paths which will help with replay value, and lastly, your dragon will get stronger throughout the game. Do well at the end of each level and you are given points. Once you have enough points, your dragon will transform and grow stronger. The game looks much better than the first, with more detailed visuals, more effects, and a much more solid frame rate. The developers really pushed the system to the limit and I love the results. But the soundtrack, my god, easily the biggest upgrade of them all. From start to finish, it's one of the most engrossing and beautifully made soundtracks period. The dark, moody themes stick with you long after the game is done, and their powerful inclusion only makes each level feel as if it will be a life and death type affair. All of this done on the Sega Saturn sound chip, by the way, not Redbook Audio. I tell you, this original soundtrack is a must listen, it's fantastic. What a brilliant game, and I highly recommend this to anyone wanting a great yet simple action game for the Sega Saturn. Alright, let's check out Tunnel B1. Well, I've never heard of this game, I hope it's good. Well, it starts out pretty nice. While I have no idea what is going on in the cutscene, the music is fantastic. It has this military sound that I love, and I like the harshness of it. I'm certainly eager to play now. After going through a very bland menu screen and checking the controls, I entered my destiny. Oh. What is... Right, there's a few things wrong here. First, the camera. Why is it pointing upwards? It's very unnatural, it makes everything look bigger than it really is. God, my eyeballs don't like the sight of this. The second thing is the objective screen. It's hard to read, uses poor colour choice, and it takes forever to get through. I just never cared enough to try and make any sense of it. Then there's the controls. It turns out we are in a hovercraft manning a machine gun, and God, trying to drive this thing sucks my eggs. It goes too fast to make precise turns, the turning circle is slow and makes me dizzy, and nothing control wise is placed in a convenient manner. When I wanted to switch weapons, I kept hitting the map, and trying to exit these screens is a pain. It takes much longer than necessary, killing any momentum this game could have. The odd camera also makes judging distances hard work. I kept bumping into things that I thought were further away than I anticipated. However, no problem. This game allows you to get a score thing. Yeah, you will hear her say that a lot. The weapons can be upgraded via pickups. So you start with a single gun, double guns, then triple guns! Sounds amazing, right? Well, check this out. Wow, the sound effects are awesome! Well, I mean they're completely useless and have no style. I can't hear anything! How did the developers think this was good?
Oh yes, let's make it so the player can barely hear a single sound effect.
What else is wrong? Oh yes, how about getting lost all the time? Even though there's a map, I still get lost. Or getting shot and not knowing where from. Or the health pickups which will damage you if you don't pick it up in time. Oh, and the constant when your health is low. Yes, this is a bad game, alright. I will admit the music is incredible though, and it did help add some much needed atmosphere to the game. I love the way it sounds, and it makes me want to push on and do battle. Despite its best attempts though, Tunnel B1 is not good, and although some limited fun was had, I don't want to play this game anymore. Thanks, but I'll try the next game out instead. Now, let's check out Shellshock. This game has a lot of tood behind it. Maybe Core 4 lots of tood would sell this game by the bucket loads. Anyway, Shellshock is a first-person combat simulator game. You control a tank with a group of mercenaries who just say things I cannot understand.
See, they call me 911. You got a problem? You just call on 9.
I will never be tood enough for this posse. To start a mission, you have to enter the briefing room, and well, the slowest conversations ever occur. Everyone's speech has to load slowly, and it makes this part of the game slow and uninteresting.
Detour, Philip K. Dick never wrote no book called Blade Runner.
Oh, come on, get on with it, man! It takes 10 minutes for anything to bloody happen. Wow, thank God we can actually do something. So, this game has you mostly taking out set targets. Level 1, for example, has you taking out all of the tanks, and level 2 has you blowing up all of the buildings to smithereens. The controls are as you'd expect. For manning a tank, it's clunky and heavy. You cannot strafe, so dodging attacks basically means turning before your foe fires around at you and hoping it does not connect.
Yo, way to go!
You start with two guns, the main gun and the cannon. The main gun is better as things actually blow up, and the cannon, yeah, don't use it if you actually want to succeed. I will admit, while charging in guns blazing is not an option, I just dicked around and blew up everything.
Yo, way to go!
I mean, come on, you're in a tank, why wouldn't you? Trees, street posts, medical supplies, fences were all no match for my destructive nature. It sounds satisfying as well.
Yo, way to go!
Although this guy who keeps talking won't shut up. He has to comment on everything going on, and God, please stop!
Yo, way to go!
Dude, have you ever just, stopped talking for 1 second? The music is interesting, but I don't find hip hop or trip hop or whatever this is to fit the action.
What you doing, eat that sucker?
I get why they went this route, but I wished Core used military themes instead. It would work so much better. If you do fail, and you will, you get the weirdest game over screen ever. I will say, after each mission, you get cash and you have to use it to fix your tank, and then if you have any spare, get upgrades and new weapons to use. This is an interesting game overall, but it will take time and patience to play. If you can put up with the difficulty and tedium, this is a decent game.
Eat that sucker!
Robotica is an early Saturn game released in 1995. The intro cutscene looked promising enough, and I like how we use a strange robot to fight through the game.
Maintain world order.
This is amazing, or so I thought.
Designed to unify mankind, but eventually, all those who could explain the
Once you actually start, things are still looking up. I like the heads-up display, and it all helps establish the robot theme here. Lots of different toys and equipment to play with, and yes, I messed around with what I could before I moved onwards. The most useful of the tools is the hoverjet. Not only can you get over spaces of death with this, but you can dramatically increase your movement speed. I did this all of the time because your non-actual turbo speed is this. Yay, I guess. So, what's the objective of this game? You find a car key placed in a random location in the level, and once you find it, you attempt to find the exit, and that's it. Yes, every level. What's wrong with that? Well, first, the combat. It's slow, boring, and frustrating. It's also just tedious. Look, I stand here and shoot things, and then wow, the enemy I just killed drops a shield regenerator to repair the damage I just took. You do have a map screen in the corner and also a radar to prepare for the upcoming foes. Sadly, the map is clearly needed because look at the level design. This is level 1. This is level 2. This is level 3. Are you seeing a pattern yet? Everything looks the same. The same grey square walls and same looking corridors and doors and rooms. I mean, come on game, a bit of decent level design is too hard for you? The 5th level does turn off the lights, which makes the game even more fun. When I say fun, I mean annoying and wow, I can't see a darned thing. We go from dull and boring to I can't see anything and dull. This has got to be the dullest first person shooter game I've ever experienced for sure. I feel sorry for all those who paid full price for this back in 1995. This is just poor. If it wasn't so dull, I could see this as a decent game, but there's just so much the game gets wrong and I can't recommend it in good faith unless you find it cheap. Even then, this video game has very little to offer. Next up, it's Starfighter 3000. This is a port of the 3DO game and that looked very good at the time. I thought the Saturn port would be awesome and possibly improved. Boy was I disappointed. This game is a flight simulator game where you have to do various missions. You have to start out training, which is a good thing. This game needs it and well, things are not exactly awful but needed a lot more work. Straight away, the controls. My god, the plane is oversensitive and combined with the frame rate, which is hideous by the way, the experience is the same as trying to control a dog that drags you around endlessly. The objectives, while clearly laid out, in practice are poorly conveyed to you in-game. There is a map, but half of the time I was confused with what I was looking at. I knew where my ship was and the mothership, but that's it. Everything else is coded weirdly, and even when you reach a point of interest, the game doesn't directly tell you where the said objective is. I flew around like an idiot looking for this building to blow up, only to eventually just blow up everything in sight hoping for the best. I will say, the environments are destructible and seeing my lasers cut down the hills and set grass on fire was very cool. I could do this all day and level the battlefield. Anyway, aside from the lasers, you do have weapons like missiles and while effective, there's not many of them and it's easy to run out of stock before you know it. Hitting anything but a ground target with your standard lasers is almost impossible. Oh, and did I mention the aircraft is slow? Thank God for the go fast button. The graphics are pretty poor with a lot of slowdown and ugly looking textures. The game also just looks unfinished somehow. It's hard to explain, but it just looks like a layer of texture or something is missing. The soundtrack is quite good though, with the driving beats, and it's quite satisfying to listen to. Overall, this game should have been good, but there is far too many problems holding it back, and ultimately, the experience is not worth it. I'm sad because I was really looking forward to this game. Here is another early Saturn game, Pebble Beach Golf Links. Believe it or not, I love a good golf game, and this was right up my alley. The game has a lot of different game modes, probably too many for me to count. I just chose the tournament mode and hoped to be decent. Before each hole begins, a video is played showing the course and Craig Stadler offers his thoughts and opinions on the task at hand.
The first hole at Pebble Beach is a short but relatively difficult par 4. It's a must to get the ball in the fairway.
Yes, Craig is a real professional golfer by the way. I like these videos and the jazz music throughout makes me feel chilled out and calm. This is good because then the meat and potatoes of the game truly begins. You will have to select your golf person and caddy, and then you tee up, choose your club, and then set a direction and then swing to finally move off the mark. Right, I did say an awful lot there. Basically, this game requires careful planning and well-timed swings. I failed a lot of the time to get a clean swing, thus my distance on direction was always off the mark. Naturally, the more times you swing, the less points you earn. There's many different ways to tackle a course, but I always hoped power would be the answer. It can be, if done right. Once you get to the putting part, this one includes the incline to the hole and you need to make sure not to overshoot the hole. Yep, this game is punishing to players who are not willing to shred a moment of patience. All of this actually kept me wanting to do better and master the gameplay. I sort of did, but my golfing skills still need more work. The graphics though are a mess. The digitized sprites look very silly and do not fit in with the environment at all. Just look at that, is that even believable? The overall detail is lacking and everything is rendered in a very low resolution. Did I mention the game has a lot of slowdown and the pace is pretty slow? Amazingly here, none of that matters because the game is fun and the controls are excellent. Oh, and I love the music. Didn't I say that already? If you can find it cheap, pick up the best golf game on the Sega Saturn, at least to my knowledge. Vampire Hunter: Darkstalkers Revenge is the second game in the Darkstalkers franchise. This game only saw a console release on the Saturn, which is fair since the first game only saw a console release on the PS1. Yes, you can get this game in all regions for the Sega Saturn, where we know it as Night Warriors: Darkstalkers Revenge. Long intro aside, this is a 2D fighting game, and since Capcom made this, see it as Street Fighter but with vampires and animal based characters instead of humans. I've always wanted this game since I saw some gameplay once on YouTube. The soundtrack was the highlight especially. I've actually used the soundtrack in many videos in my past. I also want to let you guys know that this game does not use any RAM expansion cartridges at all. Considering how good this game moves and animates, it's incredible. Of course, the third game is faster and looks just damn beautiful, but the second game is still great. The fighting system is still a joy to play, the controls are wonderful and easy to use. Funnily enough, I found myself doing much better in this game than the third one, not sure why. I also love the soundtrack. I actually think it's better than the third game in this department. The songs are more engaging, more catchy, and the jingles just stuck with me, especially All Bass theme. I only wish it was longer. This is a fine fighting game and I do recommend the Japanese version which I'm playing here. Why? The price. I bought this for £9. Yes, this is the cheapest game on this list and yet it's a fantastic fighting game which deserves more attention. Did you know Dead or Alive came to the Sega Saturn? I had no idea. It was only released in Japan in 1997. This game is a nightmare to capture footage for. The cutscenes, title screen, character selection, loading screens and even the gameplay all use different resolutions that freak out my capture device. Yes, it was so bad, every time I started a new match I had to pause it and I always lost some health as a result. Not cool, man. Anyway, this game is still fun despite those problems. There's 10 characters to choose from and you can change their costumes by hitting down on the D-pad. The game is a 3D fighting game that uses infinite 2D planes to keep the action going. Dead or Alive uses the same engine that powered Virtua Fighter 2 and even uses the high res mode, basically 640x480 resolution to play with. The game has a punch button, a kick button and of course the counter button. The punch and kick buttons can be mixed to get different moves, and if you hit back and counter at the right time, you can cause damage to your foes or simply block attacks and then dish out your own idea of punishment in return. Everything is fun to do and the controls work well. The graphics and sound are the best parts though. The high-res mode on the Saturn provides sharp picture quality and it all moves at a locked 60 frames per second. The game's soundtrack is really cool too and definitely adds to the action. The first game always had a great soundtrack, although the Saturn version here does change some of the songs that I'm used to from the PS1 version, which is interesting. Overall, this is a cheap and easy way to play Dead or Alive. This game sold over 100,000 copies in Japan alone, so finding one is easy as buying a cake. There's also a limited edition version, but I have no idea what it brings to the table. Regardless, Dead or Alive is worth picking up for the Sega Saturn. And finally, but no means last, is Darius Gaiden. This game is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, which means I basically died all of the time. Anyway, the game opens up with a fun intro that explains the story and your goal. It just looks really good and I had fun watching the visuals play out. When you jump in, the game only has 2 buttons to worry about. Firing the main gun and the bomb button, which disintegrates everything on screen and causes massive damage to the bosses. The spaceship you control starts off weaker than a turtle trying to eat grass, but these power-ups from different coloured ships will assist you greatly. Red increases your attack power and spread, green gives you better missiles and spread, and blue gives you a shield. If you get hit once without the shield, yes, you die. You also lose most of the power-ups you gained. Joy! This means getting hit is not fun. You only get 3 lives and 3 continues per game. Once they run out, game over. Luckily, I found a trick way to continue. Simply put the controller into port 2 and bam! 3 more continues, baby. The game is certainly no cakewalk, even on easy mode, but I kept playing. I wanted to see the bosses and beat them. I loved the graphics and the soundtrack, which was just weird. It has this creepy vibe about it and yet keeps me on my toes and allows me to focus on the action. I also love how this game has multiple paths to take after each level, which should improve replayability. Darius Gaiden is worth it, and if you get the Japanese version as you see here, it will not break the bank. There we are folks, some more Sega Saturn games, and while not everyone was a winner, all of them gave me something unique to experience and I'm glad I managed to buy all of the games in question. More importantly, as per usual, I hope this has given you guys at home more reason to enjoy the Sega Saturn library of games, and if you are looking to get one for yourself, well, I now have 3 episodes dedicated to the system and some of the games you can purchase. If you want to see more games, check out these videos for more Sega Saturn goodness. Well folks, please let me know what you thought of the games I showed in this episode, and until my next video, I will see you soon.